I was reading a really interesting piece yesterday about second screening and the fact that brands are beginning to use the second screen because so many, particularly teenagers, are second screening or watching something else when they're watching a movie. And does this represent an opportunity? Well, I mean, I think that's an interesting area because that's a very discrete audience. It may be a growing audience. It's an age demographic. And I suppose if you really want a second screen, you've got to accept the fact you've got to take your lumps and accept the fact that the level of pollution might increase. On the other hand, what I'm really saying is you ought to be able to make a judgment as a consumer. Say, this is the way I want to consume my media. This is what I'm prepared to pay for it. And I don't want ads. I don't want ads. That privilege is likely to cost me, let's say, I'm making this up, 50 quid a year to not have ads in my life. That ought to be my choice. I shouldn't have to be battered or kind of corralled into watching things and then have the revenue stream begin to attack my literally my concentration. I'm reading a piece in the New York Times. I do not want it to be interfered with by suddenly a cookie popping up or or some sound coming. I just don't want that. But that's the privilege of my age and sort of the privilege of the fact that I'm prepared to pay to enjoy my privilege. Mm-hmm. I think micropayments are a solution, but again, if it really can be a solution, it's a great solution. If I know I've paid, or if I know I've got an account which each time I look at something clicks up a certain amount of money, that's all right. Really, what I'm suggesting here is the notion that brands are beginning to want their cake and eat it. As to say, they would like to take. An agent many years ago, it's the most profound thing I can say to you, an agent many years ago, when I was in the movie business, said to me, you've got to understand, David, my job is to take as much money off the table as I possibly can, irrespective of what it does to your movie. I.e., it wasn't his problem when it was actually damaging my film by removing an extra $1 million for this client or this client or that client. That wasn't his problem. His problem was to take as much money off the table. My concern is that we're looking at something not dissimilar, that in the desire to take as much money off the table by the commercial brands, we're reaching a point where actually the world of information is being actively damaged, and that would be very unfortunate. Many years ago I joined an ad agency as a chairman, and one of the reasons they came and asked me to join is that they felt that what they needed was more expertise, and they wanted to develop their ability to tell stories. I remember that was exactly the conversation we had. The ad agency itself turned out to be pretty successful. I'm very glad I worked with them. But we never ever cracked, we never created the mechanisms for cracking the storytelling bit. I don't think anyone was ever employed at the agency, ever, because of an ability to tell a story. So that's a kind of active intervention. When I go back 100 years ago, when I joined Collett Dickinson Pierce, there was very clear vision by the senior management there of the type of agency they wanted. And that did involve a form of storytelling, and they went out of their way to hire people who could do that. I've never seen that as a kind of stream of activity that seems to be being pushed through with determination. But it's the right way to go, there's no question about that. But I'd be very surprised if there are graduates coming out of media courses all over the UK who have been kind of told or taught that their principal world in the advertising and merchandising world, that their principal job is storytelling. I'd be very surprised. They'll be told that their job is impact. And there's a lot of difference between impact and storytelling.